Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our second installment of Cafecito Conversations. I'm going to ask my guests to let us see their Cafecito cups. Cafecito, Cafecito. Okay. I see some of them have something on it. What does yours say, Sandy?
Welcome to the process.
Love that.
Yes.
From my favorite coffee shop. We got this together with Christy back in California.
Yeah.
Love it. Anyone else has something on it?
Mine has Proverbs 3:15, more precious than jewels.
Okay, there we go. We got to make sure we got the palabra. I mean, anyone else has something on theirs?
Just flowers.
Flowers. Mine says, be your fierce self. Gotta remind
Amen.
myself of that all the time. So thank you again for joining us. I want to thank everyone that's joining us live right now on YouTube or Facebook, on the Passion Center site or on my personal Facebook site. Today, our topic is Sisterhood Alliances, the obstacles to getting there and strategies to make them work. And I have a sharp group of amazing Latinas from around the country joining me today. And I want to thank them for taking time out of their busy schedules to come on to Cafecito Conversations and have this discussion that I think is pretty important. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call them out and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Let us know your name, any organization that you are representing today, and where you're calling in from. So I'll start with Sandy.
Yes, it's so great to be with hermanas, with colleagues and friends in this. I am Jenny from Washington, D.C. I am originally from Mexico City, and I have led a lot of immigration advocacy efforts. I love writing poetry, I love dancing, and I enjoy making homemade pozole. So come on over for the table if you're invited. This is the place for that. More than anything, I love forming circles of friends and hermanas, and I call myself a friend Cupid. So I like to introduce friends to friends because I know that friendships between, particularly between women of color, are very important. My day job is also as a director of campaigns and mobilizing with Sojourners.
Awesome, awesome. The next one is Christy.
Hello. Yes, my name is Christy Garza Robinson. I'm living in Austin, Texas, currently. I used to live in California. We just moved. I keep saying we just moved. At some point, I need to say I'm from Austin. Yeah, se acabó. I'm here for good. So yes, I'm from Austin. I'm a comadre. I'm a writer. I'm an author. And similarly, I love making space at the table for cafecito conversations, for depth, for relationships. That's like my lifeblood. So I'm also about to start another master's program, and I'm moving towards becoming a curandera, clinical mental health counselor, moving into a second career. So,
Amen. That's needed. That's needed in our community. That's for sure.
Amen.
Lisa.
Hey. Yeah, my name is Lisa Trevino Cummins. I also reside in the Washington, D.C. area. Although Sandy and I are in the same cities, we keep talking about, we've talked several times about getting together. It just doesn't happen. But maybe we'll still not give up. I have 3 children. They're one just graduated from Baylor University, and the other 2 are juniors in college. And I lead an organization called Urban Strategies, and we work with community and faith-based groups around the country, as well as in Puerto Rico and Central America, to equip those organizations to love their neighbors in better ways, whether it's enhancing their existing programs or expanding their programs. We want to be part of what God's doing in communities already. That revolves around having abundant life. So I'm glad to be here, Liz. Thank you for the invitation, and look forward to getting to know all of the new friends here.
Wonderful. Yeah, me too. I love to introduce people to each other, and then we could do awesome things together one way or another. So I love that too. Karen, I had an opportunity to do something just recently. She was a guest at the Lessons from the Latinx Church that me and Jose Humphreys were doing, and she did amazing. So of course, she was my instant best friend, and I was like, okay, I have to get her on this show somehow. And thankfully, she agreed. So Karen.
Sure. So I'm Karen Gonzalez, and I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, so really close to Sandy and Lisa. And I'm also a writer, like Christy. I write a lot about immigration, and I think one of my biggest hobbies is just reading theology and especially reading theology from our people and from the margins in general, reading theology from Black liberation perspective and womanist theology. I learn so much, and I think one of my favorite things right now is just rediscovering, reconnecting to so many aspects of my identity as a Guatemalteca. Like Sandy, I'm an immigrant. I was born in Guatemala, and I moved to the United States as a 10-year-old. And so it's been really exciting to cook recipes and to just read so much and learn so much about our culture and reclaiming all of that has been in some ways forgotten, right, by colonialism, by white supremacy. And so, yes, so I love, that's one of my favorite things. And I love getting together with women. I love these kinds of conversations. You don't have to talk me into it, Liz. And like the comadre relationship, I think is so powerful and so strong. And women of color supporting each other, I think is very important to me too.
Amen, amen. And Reverend Enid.
Hola, hermanas. So privileged to be here with you guys. I am a New Yorican, so born in Puerto Rico, raised in New York. I have the privilege and honor of serving as associate pastor at Primitive Christian Church in Manhattan, New York. And it's a community that 4 generations of my family have been from. So I'm so honored to still be amongst our people there. My day job is with the American Bible Society. I oversee our partnerships globally, where we're trying to remove barriers that prevent people from engaging with the Word of God. So anything that presents an access barrier is what we would work on. So just privileged to be here with you guys and hear more about your journeys.
Wonderful. So yeah, everyone that's watching, these are the amazing Latinas. And this is just a fraction. We are all over the place. But I'm just grateful that these Latinas are doing amazing things amongst their community and making an impact where they're at. And one of the reasons why I specifically asked them to join me today is because what I see them doing already. We're talking about Sisterhood alliances. So, I mean, why would I invite someone who's not doing that well, right? So right now, I see what they do with each other. I know that a few of you have little groups together. 2 of you, have written books on kind of the subject. And I know, Christy, you have it in Manas, which a few of you have heard me talk about in Justice Talks as well. And, I just felt like because of what you're already doing, and some of you have also been very good to me. I know Lisa has been a very good friend to me. Without me asking, isn't that the best thing when sisters are sisters to you without asking, when they reach out to you and say, how can I support you? Without you like having to beg. Have you ever had to beg? Anybody out there had to beg? Like, and right? And then you like hear crickets. Well, I feel that this group right here has not only journeyed through that on both sides of the equation, but they're living it and practicing it and trying to do it better. So that's why I invited you to be a guest today on this subject. Now, one of the reasons why I think this is an important topic to discuss is that I know that there's a lot of things going on in this world. And of course, we have all been, trying to hold space and lament a lot of the injustices of our world. I've seen what you have written. I've seen where you have been. I see what you preach. I see what you write. So I know that you're there. But I also felt that in doing those things, we need support of other sisters. We need to have their apoyo, as they say in Spanish, right? That encouragement, that word. I mean, recently I've been talking about how we need to have the madrinas back in our lives, the people that pour into us and see something in us and speak to that. And, for some reason that has kind of been lost in a lot of our communities, but I'm saying bring it back. I'm saying bring it back. And a lot of us can be those women that are madrinas to others. We need it. We need to be them, but we also need them for ourselves. Now, around the United States right now, I want to just read some of these things. 1 in 5 women in the United States is Latina. 1 in 4 female students in public schools across the nation are Latinas. And the projections are by 2060 that Latinas will form nearly a third of the female population of the nation. So basically, the future is Latina. It is a Latina. It is a Latina. So, we have to all embrace it. Obviously, we have to embrace it and acknowledge it, but the people around us as well, because we ain't going anywhere. But we have to learn how to treat each other better. We have to learn how to walk with each other so that as we're doing the things that God is calling us to do, that we do them holding someone's hand, lifting someone up, praying for them, encouraging them, and helping them to do the progress that God is requiring of us, because we all have our distinctive paths. And I don't know about you, but I hear, and this was part of our description when we were talking about this subject, we hear people saying, "Oh, I support you. I see, hermana, el Señor te está usando." And then you don't hear nothing about nothing. They don't do nothing. They don't buy your book. They don't support your seminar. You don't see them at your events. They don't even dare put something on your Facebook page saying I celebrate you. They send you a private message. What's that? What's that? And a 2019 report by Harvard Business Review, the report was called "Men and Women Need Different Kinds of Networks to Succeed." And I'm going to post the link to this in the chat later. They found that men and women benefit from having a network of well-connected peers that are looking out for them, that are opening the doors for them, that are introducing them to other people, that are shouting them out when they're in a meeting and saying, "You know what? I don't know how to do this, but I know this sister who does. And let me tell you who she is. Oh, you don't know how to find her? Hold on a minute. Te lo escribo." Okay? And we need those kind of people in our lives. And the reason for that, and the reason why this report said is important, is because we as people of color, as mujeres de color, as Latinas, we have a number of struggles and a number of obstacles. No matter that we're still progressing. Yes, thank the Lord, thank Brown Jesus, that we are still progressing. There, more of us are going to school, more of us are getting educated, more of us are getting pastoral roles, more of us are starting our own companies. Yeah, praise the Lord. But you know what? We didn't get there easily. And if we could look back, we can count probably on both of our hands how many people supported us. And, there's unconscious bias in this world. We're still living in this dominant culture. So we need to be each other's support system. And this study suggested that if we can overcome those hurdles of being haters, of looking at other women as competition, that maybe we will go to the next level faster. And that's why I believe this conversation is important. Madeleine Albright, to quote a Blanquita, she said, "There is a special place in hell for women who don't help other women." I'm just going to repeat that. There is a special place in hell for women who don't help other women. So this is another reason why this conversation is important, because I'm just trying to help some hermanas get to heaven.
That's awesome.
Come on. We don't want you in hell. We want you in that special VIP section in heaven where everybody can say, "Oh, esa fue una de las que nos soportó." Right? So that's why we're trying to have this conversation today. So friends watching, a woman alone has power. Each of these women on this panel today They have their own power. They have their own brightness. They have their own shine. But together, collectively, we have impact. We have boom. We have fuego. And that is why we have to learn how to work with each other and learn to support one another and not have this competition, that and have this scarcity mentality that there's not enough speaking engagements out there for us, that there's not enough pastoral roles out there for us, that there's not enough writing gigs out there for us, that there's not enough jobs out there for us. Déjate de esa juego, por favor.
Preach.
That is garbage. And we have to start walking the talk. Not about, oh, I support you, pat in the back. I mean, nowadays, since there's COVID, we can't even do a pat in the back physically. But yeah, we do the I support you and like on Facebook, love on Facebook. But, I want to feel that for real. I appreciate the likes and the love, and I want you to like and love this today too. But I want you to do that for real. So we know that the strategy that some people have been working on with that scarcity mentality and that hater complex is not working. The truth is that raising each other up and working towards the power of collaboration is how we're going to change the equation. And you know what, too? We have more fun that way. We have more fun. We end up enjoying our company, learning so much from each other. Because none of us has everything, right? None of us has everything. So with that said, and now that you know why I think this conversation is important, we're going to go and dive right in, all right? So, my sisters, mi hermanas, dame coger un poquito ahorita. I'll start with Karen. Okay. Have you experienced the rhetoric of support from sisters, but not the actions? How did it make you feel? And if you can, give us an example.
I would say in general, from other sisters of color, when they have promised to support me, they have done so. I haven't experienced that. I think that sometimes people who have like really big platforms, sometimes I've had the experience of them maybe promising to do it and not being able to follow through. And I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. Like they probably, a lot of people reach out to them. They have a lot going on. But in general, I feel like I've been really supported. Like even when I wrote the book, I'll use a really good example. Like I reached out to Alexia, whom I really didn't know that well, except by reputation, Alexia Salvatierra, who does a lot of immigration advocacy. She's a professor, and she endorsed my book, even without really knowing me. She was extremely supportive. I think I've experienced more of that than I have the flip side of not feeling that sense of support. But I have wondered if I'm offering enough support to other sisters, to other hermanas, in the struggle. So that's been sort of my journey in this.
That's a blessing. Alexia is a madrina. She is definitely one of the madrinas in our midst. Yeah. And that's a blessing that you're asking yourself that question. That, you have been blessed to receive the support, but now, you're putting it on yourself and looking back and saying how you're giving it back to others. So that's a good thing. Reverend Enid, same question.
Yeah, I've been blessed to have some wonderful women pour into me and feel the support, certainly on a local level, mostly amongst women of color. I think that the challenge for me has been where it has not been women of color, because they don't see me as an ally in terms of gender. They see me as a person of color. They see me as a threat to their seat at the table. I think there's also generational issues. Again, so it's not just an issue of gender. It's also intergenerational leadership and a new generation coming up and doing things a little bit differently than the generations before them. Not necessarily bad, but certainly intimidating. to a generation that doesn't understand the language and the ethos of a new generation. So I've been blessed that I've had some really powerful women, but those are women that are secure with themselves and who God has called them to be. So they don't have an issue raising up another leader because they know who they are. In their minds, it's not a zero-sum game where if they do better, all of a sudden I'm in a worse situation. But I have had experiences, especially amongst non-Latinas, where I've been a threat to them. And so I hope that for the next generation behind us, we can prepare them for those realities. It's not all butterflies and rainbows, right? You got to have a tough skin, especially when going into, leadership. But that we also can serve as those mentors for the next generation. I was at a conference a few years ago where I heard an all-male panel, and there was 2 generations represented, and the younger generation was talking about how they were able to eat the crumbs from the theological table of their mentors. And I remember saying to myself, oh my goodness, where are those spaces for women? I mean, we shouldn't be eating crumbs, right? But this idea of passing down legacy, and I'm like, so where are those spaces for women, right? To learn and to be nurtured. And so I think, we found pockets, but I think there's space, especially for those of us kind of coming up, to create that for the next generation where we haven't had it necessarily.
That's a great point. The first Cafecito conversations, we actually were talking about that generational difference and us looking back, to make sure that we are creating those spaces. Because a lot of the Gen X community, they didn't really have it. It was almost like they learned by osmosis, So for them, it's almost like pledging in a way, like I didn't have it, so I'm not going to make it happen for anybody else. And now more and more people are looking back and asking themselves, what can I do better? How can I give back? And that's an important question, a reflection question that we should all be doing continuously. And Mana Lisa.
Yes, ma'am. I guess it shows my age because I've had a little bit of everything. And have had friendships with people that are not people of color. And, with friendships, there's seasons, right? And so there's some friends who the Lord allowed our paths to cross and for 5, 8 years, 10 years. But then, things happen and move away or get involved in something else. But those are seasonal or they have seasons to them. I've had some dear friends that have been, my friend Lula Bailey Balton. She says people call her Lola, but she's Lula Bailey Balton, African American, and has been a great friend for a couple of decades now. And then I have my Latina girlfriends who have been with me through thick and thin, and I know I can give them a call and don't have to explain what I might be feeling or what I might need, why I need something. They just say yes, and they'll ask me more questions later. So I've been really blessed with amazing friendships. I will say that on the work that I do, the ministry side, there are women involved, but it seems like it's been mostly men that I've had to work with. And so I think I've been able to develop friendships there as well. It's different than my friendships with females. But yeah, I've been able to enjoy and be blessed with amazing friendships. There have been friendships that really weren't mutual. So I've started noticing that one person, they just call when they need something and not willing to invest on the other side of it, right? And so I have to watch myself that I don't just call when I need something because I know what it feels like to be on the other end of that. We've also had some friendships that unfortunately, broken down, and I'm sure all of us have had some of that. I get to work with my friends, and I'm not sure if it's friends that come to work with me or people that work with me, then I become friends. It kind of happens both ways. The downside of that is when things get difficult. Maybe there's different sets of expectations, different sets of performance requirements that maybe someone can't meet or whatever. So those get challenging when you're working with friends. But I think that the upside is so much more than the downside that we don't hesitate to work with friends.
Yeah, you're blessed, Lisa. You're blessed to work with friends. It's a beautiful thing. I used to work with friends too when I was working for the Latino Pastoral Action Center. And when you do that, it doesn't feel like work. So it's a beautiful thing. So I see you guys have a lot of that blessing. So y'all need to lay your hands over here this way. You know, come on now. I need some of that anointing. All righty. So Sandy, what do you say about that?
You know, I think for me, pretty early on, when I started my professional career, I realized if I want to make it, I cannot afford to go at it without the support of like really faithful sisters. Like I just cannot. I have navigated very wide spaces in the places of work where I've been. So the support of particularly other Latinx women, Latina women who have been by my side, who have been confident, who have been able to reframe the moments that I was leaving, able to help me process. It was vital. I could not do my work. I could not function without that. As an immigrant, without a family in the U.S., the stakes for me are really high to not have that sort of network of support. I think I have been blessed in that way, but I had to be really intentional to seek that. Both with being really vulnerable, which is not as an immigrant too, I think we're taught not to be vulnerable. We're expected to have it all together, particularly when our permanency on this country depends on our ability to perform or our ability to contribute to society. You have to develop this sort of core that doesn't allow you to be vulnerable. So I have to do a lot of internal work to become vulnerable, to really letting others see me, my weaknesses. So I had to do a lot of that. And then I had to be intentional in pursuing back, right? In pursuing those friendships back, in cultivating those friendships and nurturing that. I think today, for me, the value of comadrazgo, the value of having people who, I like to use the term comadre as, I grew up in Mexico, and comadres were literally raising each other's children. I don't have children on my own, but I do have visions and dreams that I'm trying to give birth to. And I know that people around me have that too. And so hermanas like Christy, like Karen, that we just have like a closer relationship, are the places where we've been able to practice comadrazgo, to give birth to the visions and the dreams that we want to see happen. But it has taken a lot of intentionality, right? And like, I think it's often easier to just keep running and try to figure out things on my own. And then realizing after I did that, and I've done that a lot, that I need people with an extra set of eyes, people with more expertise on the road, etc. I have, however, been on the flip side of things where I have been very supportive of others, particularly white women in organizations where I've been, and I've done a lot of emotional labor, a lot of labor to help understand dynamics and unpack systems in different organizations. And I think the sadness or the grief comes when I have their back and I feel like they have my back. And then when push comes to shove, like it doesn't work that way, because they're not used to paying the cost as some of us are used to paying the cost consistently, because that's our life. Like we cannot not pay the cost. So
that's a beautiful thing that you said too. I mean, to have that imagery of the comadres, and the comadrazgo, as you said. I actually know a Latina group that's been meeting like that around the country. And I think that you also mentioned about pursuing friendships. I've always been very big on friendships. Not that I've had the greatest friendships. I do have some really good friends, but I could count them on my hand. And I've done a lot of study. I took it so serious that I had to read the books and I had to create the groups. Come on, let's all study friendship together. And you notice that, like you said, not everybody wants to pay the cost. So because friendship te cuesta algo, you have to. That's why too, I believe that you really can't have a million friends. I'm suspect of those people that have like a million friends, and I don't know about that, because it takes time for you to get to know the person and give back, and even sometimes give more than they're giving you at a particular season in their time, right? Because everybody's busy in certain times, and maybe writing a book, maybe going through a dissertation. I remember one of my friends, when I was doing my first dissertation, she was mad at me. She was like, I moved out here and you just kind of like disappeared on me, and we were in a car, and I was like, I'm writing a dissertation though, right? And and she was like, what, you're right. I need to stop focusing on what I'm going through right now and understand that you're going through that. And then when I got out, I made sure, when I got out of the cave, the dissertation, I made sure that I showered her with affection and just spend time together, because again, we all go through seasons, but we need to do what you said. We need to pursue, but we also need to show the vulnerability. I think that a lot of us, we're Latinas are like the poster child for strong women. You know what I mean? Everybody expects us to be strong, and we are, and because we have to be, and but there's moments when we do have to let go of that and say, I need you. I need you in my life. This is what I see in you, and this is what you do for me. And that's like it's like ripping like a hole in you when you're trying to be vulnerable, right? Because you don't know if you're going to get that acceptance back, and that's why some people don't do it. But I think, like you said, if we pursue it, if we are, take the little steps to be vulnerable and show people that we care and that we want to pursue these kind of relationships, then maybe we'll see some more benefit of it, and get some of that anointing that some of you sisters have. Amen. Praise Jesus. Come on, we're gonna take a moment to praise Brown Jesus. Yes. So, speaking of most of you have had really good relationships and people pouring into you. I'm wondering, what do you think has been an obstacle for you to support other people?
Anyone?
So, take that first, Emana Karen.
Okay, so I'll tell you that it's a question I ask myself a lot, because I work full time. I'm an HR director for a large organization, and really, I feel like my vocation is, writing and speaking, but because I work full time, sometimes I wonder if my lack of time, because of my commitments, because my writing is done in little, stolen moments in the morning and in the evenings, if I don't pour into my sisters enough because of that. And so when someone reaches out to me and says, hey, can you, if someone's a person of color and reaches out to me and says, I would love for you to endorse my book, or would you come to this or that, I really try to say yes, unless it's absolutely, I can't, because I already have a commitment or something. Because, like if I have, for example, I had a situation where a group of white people who do a lot of work in immigration that's very good asked me to come speak. And it was at the same time that there was an event being done by mostly women of color, people of color, on the same topic on immigration. So I chose to go to the one that the people of color did, because I felt like, well, I want to give my gifts, right, to the community, to uplift my community. And it's not that I don't think it's bad for someone to speak, certainly there's a place to go to white conferences and speak about things, but I also think it's good for us to give our gifts to each other, right? And to invest in that. And people have asked me to share like PowerPoints, or to share, can we sit down and talk about this? So I really try to do that as much as possible. But I wonder if I just need to create more space in my life to where I can really pour into especially I think about the next generation. I have a lot of young writers to reach out to me, which is really exciting too. But I wonder if I just need to make more space for that. So to me, a major barrier, I think, is time. Being bivocational makes it really challenging, and doing that as an additional thing, like a third thing to add into this. So
That's good. That's good. Christy.
Yeah, I think for sure time, I will concur. But then also for me personally, I can tend to not see myself as having authority to do that in terms of platform. So I always see myself as one down. I never think of like the stewarding of my own space and power and inviting other people into that, or thinking of resources to give to others, because I'm like, oh, who am I? That's like the way that I think about it. Like just recently, I tended to not even say that I was an author, that I was like a published author, even though I am, because I'm like, what, I wrote it with other people, it's fine. So I think that actually gets me in trouble, and I think that creates a barrier to being a real ally and being a real sister that platforms one another and supports one another. So, and then also going back to what you were saying earlier, envy is like a thing in all our communities that we have to acknowledge and be aware of. For me, there's different feels about the Enneagram, but I'm a 4 on the Enneagram, and like I think our deep core sin is envy. And so whenever I see that in my life, especially with other women of color, because I do fall into the mentality of scarcity and thinking that there's only a limited space, for a voice, there's only limited speaking engagements, writing engagements, and I always think, they're not for me, because there's just so few. And so I think that ends up hurting me and hurting my relationships when I do that. I appreciate when people just admit it, cuando dicen like, oh, I'm really jealous, but don't let that hang them up. I feel like infinite capacity for that with my relationships and with myself. So I've had women of color tell me that they're like, I didn't want to give your name for such and such thing because I thought if I did, then they're not going to ask me. And then what am I going to do? And I just found that so refreshing. Like somebody would just say it, right? Just admit it and then move on. Like we get it. We're all human. We have limitations. We're all struggling through the same waters of white patriarchy. Like we all need to take that crap off us, get that caca off us. And so I feel like we need to step into that together. And I know that's an obstacle for me. So.
No, I mean, that's amazing. I mean, first of all, for someone to tell you that, I mean, wow.
It was helpful.
To kind of like, right up in there, tell you, yeah, I did not submit your name because, I wouldn't do that. But I do understand what you're saying, that we all have that little green envy monster that rears its ugly head, because we are all fallen. And because of that, we have to call it out and say, okay, this is what I'm feeling, but this is not what I should be feeling. And why do I feel this way? Like we have to kind of like follow that green envy monster down the rabbit hole and figure out why we feel the things that we do. Another thing you said that was really powerful to me and speaks to me, is that you don't even see yourself sometimes as having the authority or the platform even to share. And listen, I give you big ups for that, for saying that, because I think that it's so important for us to acknowledge that we don't see ourselves sometimes the way other people may think of us. I remember I was asked to do a tour, and it was like all these big name people. I was the least of these, okay, trust me. and I was like you sure you calling me? I mean, I did. I feel it. And I remember processing this with a spiritual director saying, what's up with my imposter syndrome? Lord have mercy. Like this thing is like como un monkey on my back. You know what I mean? Like, why am I always questioning my capability of doing something? I mean, why is it that I have 2 doctorate degrees, ladies? 2. Like, what am I trying to prove? That's what my husband says. What am I trying to prove here? You know? And it's like, no matter what, you never feel like it's enough. And I think that's part of that colonialization stuff that we've been dealing with too. We just don't feel like it's enough. And we don't have enough people speaking into us saying that it's enough. Now, obviously, you know, I did have a little bit of that anointing that some of y'all had. And, you know, my sister-in-law, Enid, she saw me from 11 years old and said, I see something in you. And gave me opportunity. And that's how I basically started in church leadership, really. Through her seeing this 11-year-old child of a single parent and saying, you know what, I see something in you. So, but I thank you for saying that, because I think we do have to, you know, battle with ourselves. We have to constantly evaluate ourselves and kind of like pick out those things, even though they're ugly. It's like when you have a pimple and you're doing one of these, you know, you got to pick it out, sisters. All right. And Mana Sandy, what do you say about that?
Yeah. I mean, I think I would have to agree with a lot of what has been shared. And I think there's, I think sometimes we're led to believe that lie about the pie. You know, there's only so many seats at the table. You know, who takes it is a thing. I think obstacles is also that vulnerability. It's the other side of that vulnerability, right? It's like the can I approach this person from a confident place to check in? Like, I'm pretty much echoing what you're saying, Chrissy, with that authority of sorts. Like, can I approach this person with that sort of like, how are you doing, with that kind of question? I think for me, it's a lot of like, am I intruding? Like, am I like, who am I to be like, hey sis, how are you? I think for me, something that I've been doing a lot of reflection upon is I'm a very private person. I think I was taught that way, you know, like we say, los trapos sucios se lavan en casa, you know? So we don't put our caca out there for everyone to look at, right? So it's like, who am I to be like, show me what's like, so let me see how I can like help you deal with what's happening. So like, it's not my MO, because we've been told like, no te metas, or you know, los trapos sucios se lavan en casa. So I feel like I don't want to be like inmiscuyéndome in like what's not my business, but that's a lie, you know, that's a lie. I think the truth is like probably more than not, a lot of us women, and particularly Latina women, are in some way questioning their right to be somewhere. We're trying to prove ourselves and prove like that we deserve to be in places or whatnot like that. That is a far more common experience. And so kind of functioning from that place, no matter how confident other people look, right? Because I think that's the other flip side, is like, all people are so confident, you know, surely no one feels like I feel. So those are some of the things that prevent me from that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think we heard it. You know, we don't want to air our dirty laundry or, you know, share the caca out there, because people, you know, the thing is that when we have been that vulnerable, people show us that they can't handle it. As Jack Nicholson said, they can't handle the truth sometimes, right? And so we take the little pebbles and we throw them out to see if our community, whoever is out there, can receive it and nurture us through that process. Sometimes they can, praise God, sometimes they can't. And that's when we get a little bit more timid to do it again. So, you know, but I think it's all necessary, like you ladies are saying. So now let me transition a little bit to this question, and I'll have Reverend Enid share on this. There's always some hashtag challenge asking us to pick sisters we admire, right? You know, I like them, you know, I do them sometimes, you know. You know, the ones that say, you know, pick a beautiful sister, pick someone that inspires you, and you know, those are all great. But how can we start showing support to whatever the sisters that we have around us that are peers, or to that next generation of up and coming Latinas, that is more than those hashtags, that is actual practice? So, Reverenda.
I think there's small and big ways that we do that, right? Small ways. If you're in a meeting and there's a sister there with you, help affirm, right, what she says. Have her back. I was in a meeting recently where it was all males, only 2 of us sisters. And my sister made a wonderful suggestion about a project that we should pursue. And she, makes this well-articulated argument about why we should do it. And the next person that, spoke, the brother pivoted completely, didn't acknowledge her contribution, didn't thank her for what she said, didn't even asked a totally unrelated question. Another brother comes and addresses him. And my sister's there, no one even acknowledged that I made this comment. So I raise my hand and say, hey guys, we need to go back. I just want to thank my sister for what she said. I want to affirm what she says and just say publicly, she has my support to work on that project. But how many times has that happened in meetings, and for fear of us being marginalized, right, or being alienated or losing our voice, our space at the table, we just let stuff like that slide. And so I think the first thing we could do is just have each other's back when you see that. I mean, we should be there to support, to strengthen, and to invest in the success of our sisters. And we could do it in small ways like that. But then also it's broadening this idea of how we pass down opportunity. Somebody said, about not recommending each other. And I've heard that and I've seen that. And it's so sad because we bought the lie. Haha, Dr. Liz, we bought the lie that advancement only comes from patrilineal legacy, that it has to be a door that a man opened from a table that a man created. Let's create spaces. Let's create opportunities that we could also pass down to our sisters, to the generation coming behind us. So things like this, Dr. Liz, Cafecito conversation that was birthed out of a need that you saw. I have another sister during this pandemic that is gathering women every week and encouraging them virtually. And so let's take that step of faith and birth these things that have been burning in our bellies for years instead of waiting for a man to open the door. And I say that with the understanding that there are male allies. I've also had some wonderful mentors and leaders that have opened the door and are still pouring into me. But let's not wait until that moment. If God has given you a vision, birth it and invite those female voices to be part of it, but also set up a space to pass that down for the next generation. The last thing I say is about the imposter syndrome. Guys, that's real. Oh my gosh, I've been there. I have nightmares about that, about being invited to a space to speak on something and not have anything to say. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they discovered me. And so I think that's very real, but also we need to understand the expectation on women too is different than it is for our male counterparts, right? Sheryl Sandberg talked about that in her book, Lean In, right? How maybe a male counterpart has that one job that he does, but we're mom and we're wife and we're sister and we're daughter and we wear all these hats and trying to juggle all these things with the pressure that we have to do it better and more efficiently than our male counterpart, right? And so also making space by extending grace to our sisters. Oh, let's extend grace to each other because sometimes we're our own worst critics. And so I think if we can model those things for the next generation, I think we're passing down a really beautiful legacy.
Amen. Amen. Woo, let's just pause and soak that all in. Yes, we need to create those spaces. We need to acknowledge these things. And I think that, again, I remember when I started, I think I'm probably older than all of you on this thing here, but I just use a lot of oil of Olay and stuff. But I tell you this, I remember I used to have an organization called the Center for Emerging Female Leadership, a while ago in New York City, and that's why I created it, to give voice and visibility to women, because I didn't feel like I saw it, and I'm so thankful that you said that, Reverend Enid, because it's true. Why do we have to wait? Who are we waiting to? Whose ring are we waiting to kiss to get the permission to do these things?
Right.
Let's just do them. And, I stopped doing it because honestly, I didn't feel, I'm from New York City. I will always be, you know, a very proud New Yorker. I live in the bubble of Florida, but I do feel that here is a different world. And when I came here, I didn't get the support that I got in New York City. And after a while, you just feel like, you know what, I'm not gonna keep doing this if you don't see that people feel like they need it, you know. And it wasn't that they didn't need it, it's just they didn't feel the need to support it. And so for the women out there that are always wondering, where are the women? Where are the organizations? Where are the gatherings? Well, if you never show up, if you complain about paying a $10 or $15 or $25 fee for them to do something, that is why you're not going to see these things. So when you see them, when you see that someone stood up and created something for you so that you can have a voice, so that you can be visible, so that you can be developed, show up. Show up, support, because that is very difficult to do, for someone to just swallow their imposter syndrome, wondering, you know, why me? Why should I do it? You know, am I the best one to do it? Isn't someone more qualified to do it? You know, or to swallow the hurt that they've experienced already, right? So when women do it, support them. Elisa, what do you say about this?
You know, I was laughing because Enid, we were talking earlier, Enid and I met each other, not on the East Coast, but in Israel. And
Yes.
but Enid, I was reminded of that time where we were meeting with the Bedouins. And
yes. Tell that story, sister. Tell it.
we might have to add into it. But we were in a circle with eating with the Bedouins and had a wonderful meal. But before that, we were talking about culture and that sort of thing. And it was very clear that the Bedouins did not have an appreciation for what the women contributed to their community. And so I don't know if it was Enid or me, but one of us asked the first question on that topic. And, you know, kind of eyes popped out. And I think whoever was first, the other one came and asked another question, just so that we weren't out there on our own. And afterwards, you know, people were like, wow, you guys were strong, but we're like, we're just asking questions, you know. But I think maybe because we're in a foreign land and there could be guns around and all that, maybe that was raise some eyebrows. But, you know, I think that it is good to support one another. And I think I'm from the generation, Liz, that I didn't, early on, I didn't have those friends supporting me. And I think that I've tried to be that friend to others. And so to show up, to pay, to buy that ticket, even if I don't need it, right? To do what I can to support somebody else's dream. I can't always do that, but I try when I can. And whether it's you know, signing something, or whether it's, you know, giving a paragraph, an endorsement, or putting in a call and taking a meal to somebody who's sick. You know, I want to try to do those things because I think we do need each other. And I think, you know, going back to one of the questions that you asked, Liz, what's one of the hindrances? I'm like Sandy. I'm a natural introvert, so I've had to work to be an extrovert. But I also have I also want to I have a high level or need for being able to trust someone. And so I think that there's different levels of friendship. And I think the more I trust someone, I trust their intentions, I trust their integrity, that there aren't going to be surprises, then I can grow into a deeper relationship. And that's everybody, and Lorena is a great friend of mine, praying with each other, right? Just being that listening ear. And I've learned that sometimes when folks share with me issues, they're not necessarily looking for a solution, and that's my go-to, is to build a solution, but just to listen, right? And just to lament together whatever the issue might is, or cry together to hear each other's pain. So I think presence is a big part of that. And I think that would be the limitation too, because we all have, and Karen, you were mentioning bivocational, and we all have other responsibilities. So being able to make the time to be present is a big deal.
I could attest to that. I know Lisa calls me and you know, and I think these are the practices that we can do. Like, I don't have a lot of time, but I just wanted to check in on you. How you doing? Right? You're letting me know, like, this ain't going to be an hour conversation, mama. Okay. And also, I'm also respecting that too, right? Like, okay, great. Look, she's taking time out to do that and check on me. So, doing those kind of things, even I'm an ambivert. So, there's times when I'm more introverted, and there's times that I just want to have a party. And then there's people wondering, like, who is this chick? But, I could be either or, and I think that it's so important for us to just continue to know ourselves, so that we know what is the best way that we can approach and have these conversations with our sisters, whether they're peers or where I know for me, God has really been stirring in my heart to, look behind me for the sisters that are coming up behind me, because my old boss, Reverend Ray Rivera, he keeps reminding me that I'm old. And he's like, muchacha, you gotta pour back, So, and I appreciate that though, because you need those kind of reality checks. Anyone else want to tap into this question before I move to the next one? No? Christy? Oh, I don't hear you, Christy. Oh, let's see if I could unmute. Okay, can you hear? No? Oh. Okay.
You're muted.
You're muted, Christy, and I can't unmute you, my love. Alrighty. So maybe you could come back in. Come leave
Can
and
you
come
hear me
back
now?
in. Yeah.
Okay, well now let me think what I was going to say. I think I was going back to something Sandy had said about birthing, that we're comadres in the sense that we have like things to birth. Yeah. And so I was thinking about the role that my friends have played in my life. That's like, they're legit in it with me. They're not just adding me on a follow Friday, whatever. But like being each other's midwives, right? Like that imagery of ahí estamos, like we're in it with each other. We're giving birth to these beautiful, creative, important pieces of the kingdom. And it is being that champion for each other, but not just a champion, but like in the labor, in the like, this sucks, in the like, I'm getting pushback and I can't find my voice and I'm overwhelmed, like in that with each other. Like that's a part of that comadre vision of participating in midwifery. And then the second thing I was thinking of, because I've shared some very like white Christian spaces with some of you, one of the ways that I feel supported in those places is if my voice is not the lone prophetic voice. So if I am saying something prophetic, something challenging, if my voice is in surround sound con otras, like other people that are just like another Latina, just like me, that sees it, knows it, and then they speak in too. So the surround sound prophetic, not just the like one Latina that's gonna get like her head cut off. Yes, come on. Because I can feel like that's happened. If we want to talk about like previous experiences for me, especially intergenerationally. So like the older generation is like, I know, like stop talking. You are exasperating the situation. Here's like little Latina Christy with her voice in my earlier ministry career. What I needed in that moment was like the madrinas, was the comadres that were going to say like, your voice is not going to be silenced. I voy a estar contigo. I'm going to be in it with you. That kind of camaraderie, like that kind of connection. I don't need you to add me on a Follow Friday. I need you in that room with me, with your voice, to say you're not alone, because that's a part of our gift in those spaces, right? Is we have different eyes. Podemos mirar, we see other things. And so let's honor that and be with each other in it. That's crucial to me. So
that's beautiful. And that's what Lisa was saying too, what happened with her and Enid, and it's so important, right? Because sometimes when you're in that room, it's not like you can go and hold the sister's hand and say, I got you. Right now I need you to like show me by concurring. And I was actually in that call with Reverend Enid when she did that. And I was like, mira esta, mira, like I get those proud moments sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, wow, this sister did something really wonderful. I saw it myself. So let's transition. What is one strategy you would recommend to making these sisterhood alliances work? What would be one strategy that you can share with our audience today?
For me, I think find those individuals with whom you can be vulnerable. Because I think when we're able to, and it's mutual vulnerability, right? I don't think you want to go out there and just tell the world, but you develop, you kind of follow the relationship to see where it goes, and I think that it's not just and with that friendship, it's not just someone who can say, "Otta girl, go do it," but it's also someone who said, "Lisa, you better not do that. That's not your strength, right? Lisa, this is, look at this, and this." And so I need the one that's affirming, but also the one that's going to help me see my blind spots.
Amen. That's a good one. Anyone else?
Well, I was thinking about how, so much of our theology is done in conjunto, right? We talk about that, how a lot of our learning and the way theology is passed down is in community. So having that safe community, and I think, I know we moved on past challenges. One of the things that's been hard for me is, being in spaces where I'm with other Latinas, but I'm not quite sure about everything they believe and affirm. Like, are they really committed to liberation theology, or are they still in a very sort of white theological space? And sometimes that has been a barrier for me in being able to really connect. And so I think being with other hermanas that it's safe, that they, even if they don't believe everything you do, they affirm you, right? And they let you be you. I think that's really important, because that can be, I think, a place where you hold back because you don't feel safe, and you don't know. And that's been an experience I've had, in my city, visiting a lot of immigrant churches. There's still a lot of white evangelical theology there. And that can be a barrier for me in really being able to engage and really being able to talk about decolonization, talking about liberation of our people, talk about, connecting to our roots. Liz and I had a conversation, right, where we talked about reconnecting to the healing practices of Latinidad, right, of our communities. And we had some people who were uncomfortable, who were saying, "Oh, this is, I was taught this is demonic. I still think it's demonic." And so, yeah, I think what I have found in Grupo Latinas, Sandy's a really great people connector, and started this little group for us where we're reading a book together and doing practices together as well. So it's more than just, we're talking about what we read, but we're being together and we're being vulnerable. So I think you have to find your people. You have to find your safe people who don't think you're too much, who don't think you're not enough. And being able to vulnerably do theology together and practice together without that fear, right? That I'm not going to be accepted for something or another. So I think that has been very valuable for me. And prior to that, I think I felt very fearful. I didn't know what would happen in those spaces.
That's good. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm with you in that, Karen. Like the finding your people, and I think finding your people requires that you risk it. Like you have to risk being known. And so I think as women of color and as Latinas that have been in systems that have told us that we are the problem, or that there's something wrong with us, or like, I think we tenemos que reprender. Like that is not true. Like God did not make an accident when God created us. Like the divine lives in us. We're literally our ancestors' wildest dreams, and we're worth knowing, and we're worth knowing fully. So finding those that can know you, like that can accept the fullness of who we are, right? And that requires risk. So like you will find a lot of people that when you disclose who you are, they won't like it, right? And that's true for everyone. And so it's just finding the ones that can that can see your fullness, that can speak truth, that can speak grace, that can like hang in the tensions of the complex human beings that all of us are, right? Like hang in the tensions of like, I am super supportive, y a veces me da envidia, you know? And it's like, and I'm both. And I want to be very honest in these places, and I want you to be, you know, to hang in that. So you take the risk and do that, and then you have to be really intentional. I think for me, it's like it's an intentionality. Like it doesn't just happen, and it's costly, you know. So it's like a muscle. Like it's not like, okay, check, I've had that one vulnerable conversation with this person. I risked it. They like me. I like them. Y ya me voy. Like no, it's like a muscle, right? And so I've had the privilege of being in deep relationships. Like Christy and I have known each other for over like 15 years or so, and so it's a thing that now the relational capital that is there makes it so that I'm like fully transparent, you know. So I can't do that, and so it's like it's so valuable that I have to make time, you know. It's like I know that I have to call her. I know that you know, when we've lived in the same cities, we made it intentional. Like once a week, we see each other. I don't care what the week is like, you know. So it's like it's that level of commitment because it has to be intentional. It doesn't just like happen. And then the third one, I think it's like for me, it's bigger than me. Like I am really committed to the vision of Comadrasco, like being comadres, of birthing those visions. But the visions that God gives us are hardly ever individual or hardly just ever for me, you know, just to make one person great. They are for the healing and the transformation of communities. You can't heal and transform communities without a community. So so I think it's that like we have to have that like remembrance, like when things get hard, when I don't want to risk it again, or when I like don't want to make time. I think it's like it's bigger than me. Like it's bigger than this moment. It's bigger than lo que está pasando ahorita or the misunderstanding or whatnot. It's like nope, there is a vision that I'm more committed to, that I'm going to pursue and fight for. So that would be what I would say.
Wonderful. That's I mean, I'm taking notes, guys, because you know I'm gonna summarize at the end. You know, anyone else wants to talk about those strategies?
Yeah, if I can just piggyback off of what Sandy said, I love that she pointed to the fact that it's a process, right? You don't just meet someone and you're fully vulnerable with them the next day, right? There's an evolution that happens there. But I think that those spaces need to be honoring, but we need to be careful that they're not always homogenous, right? Because we need people that sharpen us. One of my mentors, your sister-in-law, Pastor Ina Rios Rivera, talked to me about sandpaper people, right? And people that smooth away kind of some of those rough edges around us. And you need people that are going to be bold enough to tell you, hey, this is a little off. Hey, you can strengthen that. Hey, you didn't approach that in the best way. And you need to have confianza with people to do that, right? But if everyone looks at the world the way that we do and believes what we believe, they're not necessarily, someone said blind spots. They're going to have the same blind spots that we have. So I have a circle of friends I've been journeying with for about 7 years. And 2 of them are Latina, 2 of them are African-American, different in age, different in upbringing. And we sharpen each other all the time. We have some very robust conversations, but we are committed every week to come together, to be honest. It's super, you know, confidential, so you're never going to see me post about it. But we pray with each other, you know. We've journeyed and nurtured each other through some really difficult times because over time we've built that confianza with each other. So I think a commitment to just remaining true to each other, true to who God created you to be, but also, you know, again, making the space safe. I think it's important.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I remember speaking to someone that was, you know, trying to kind of pour into me, and she basically challenged me. And you know, and when people challenge you, it doesn't feel good. You know, you feel the ouch a little bit, and what she said to me though was on point. You know what I mean? I needed somebody to tell me what she did, but and how she told it to me, she was able to do it because she had earned that place in my life. And that's like what you're saying, Enid, that, you know, you don't just, I don't allow anybody to just come and tell me, let me tell you something. I'm like, who are you? You know, what place do you hold in my life? You know, It's when you earn that. I remember reading about refrigerator rights. You know, people that come to your house and they have that, you know, they could go to your refrigerator. Those are the people that you have that confianza with, that they can come and they could take something out of your refrigerator and they could tell you something that you ain't gonna like, and you're gonna just, you know, deal with it and embrace it and, you know, mull it over. But it's going to be, something that will challenge you and make you better. And that's what's so important. Anyone else want to share something on that? No? Okay, well, so let me just say this. I have my little notes here, and I think this is rich. This is Hermanas 2, okay? Notes, Hermanas 2, all right? Because these are such life lessons, I think, that every sister that's listening could really take with them and really start applying immediately. You know, the fact that, you know, was said that, find people that you can have that mutual vulnerability. And I think that's important too, to when you're testing the waters and you're trying to, you know, take that chance with someone. If you're always the one that's doing everything, well, that's already communicating to you that maybe this is not the person. A number of you said, you know, find your tribe, you know, find that squad and then, you know, tap into them, you know, do that theology in conjunto. I remember, I still have a group of women. We call ourselves Wepa, right? And the reason we call ourselves Wepa is because, you know, we're Puerto Rican, but, you know, so the slang term, awesome and everything, but also because it stands for women encouraging, progressing, and advancing. And our conversations, especially when I was in New York, when we were all living in New York, it would be like very intense, talking about books, like some of you said that you do talk about books, and then like, okay, how we practice this. So that's important, being able to talk about, you know, what is it that you believe, accepting each other as your theology evolves even, right? Because we are not the same people that we were 5-10 years ago. Praise be, praise be. And because of that, you know, we have to give ourselves that grace that Karen, you were talking about, to be able to, you know, I'm going to understand where my sister's coming from. Let me see how we can, journey together in this, even though we're changing. Some of you mentioned, you know, to risk, Sandy, you said this, to risk being known, that, and to accept that none of us are an accident. We are not an accident. And I love that. And that's a mantra. Write it down, put it on your refrigerator, in the mirror, wherever you do your affirmations. We are not an accident, and don't allow anyone to make you feel that way. Find those people that accept you the way you are in your fullness. Woo! Yes, in your fullness. You know, we need to have people around us that accept us the way we are. And yes, will tell us when, the sandpaper people that will tell us, tú estás mal en eso. I'm sorry, I gotta call it out. Because I'm your sister. I'm not going to let you go into the hole, right? And that's what we have to be able to do. The intentionality, making the time to build relationships, the commitment to walk this journey with each other, making it intentional. The fact that some of you mentioned that as well. It's not like, oh, I don't have nothing to do, so let me just, call somebody. No, it's that, it's intentional. You care about the person and you're going to make the time. And then, like you said, Ine, having people that are different than you. I remember hearing, if you're the smartest person in the room, if you're the person that, there's nobody around you that you can learn from, then you have to look and see who can you add to this. I would like to add too, and I think Sandy mentioned this as well, that it's not a one and done kind of thing. Oh, I was vulnerable and, I'm good now. Yeah, I did my vulnerability for the year. Know that, that connection building is not a one and done situation, that you continue to do it, but also that you amplify other women. I remember recently a sister on her platform, she's, very, very well known. And on her platform, she was like, hey, you should follow this person. You know what I mean? And, I was like, hey, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't have to do it. I didn't, ask anybody to do that for me. But the fact that she felt that I had something to say and she was telling her people to do that, I think that's great, And again, what is it that we can do in our daily? So one word, ladies, as we leave this space today, that you want to leave to the women that are listening today about Sisterhood Alliances. One word. Okay, maybe not one word, maybe one sentence.
Let me kick it off. I would say encourage. I think, again, returning back to what you guys said about that imposter syndrome, and I think so many leaders feel that, maybe just haven't had the courage to say that. And so encouraging and affirming each other every opportunity we get. I mean, if we look at the scriptures, there's only 5 women mentioned in Jesus's lineage, right? 2 widows, a prostitute, an orphan, and a teenage mom. Come on, y'all. We're amongst good company. And so as we look at greatness, right, let's affirm each other and encourage each other and just, right, affirm who God created us to be, and just walk in that with authority, with confidence, and with power.
Amen. Amen.
I would say too, it's interesting because whenever I hear people say, "Oh, I really suffer from imposter syndrome," and I can think of all the gifts that person has, and I think of all the ways they have blessed me and encouraged me, as either in friendship or in my walk with God. And I think it's really important to remember we all struggle with imposter syndrome, so we have to call out each other's gifts. We have to speak against that. Like Sandy was saying, rebuke that, send it back to where it comes from, right? And I think it's good to affirm, like, Sandy, you're really good at this. You should do this. This is important, because all of us will downplay our accomplishments or our voice or our expertise in an area. So I think that calling out of gifts, calling out of the way that God has blessed us, I think is important to do, and to do it out loud and to do it often.
Anyone else?
I was going to say, listen. Sorry, Sandy. Listen and listen to understand. I think that's important, so that there's so many things that could divide us and break friendships, and so I think it's just important that we listen to understand, and then show thankfulness. Which Liz, I'll do this. I think we're coming to the end, aren't we?
Yep.
I want to make sure and thank you, Liz. You do amazing work. I don't know how. You must have more than 24 hours in a day. I don't know how you do all that you do. And you do it with such energy and passion. And my guess is you're not thanked enough. So I want to make sure and thank you.
No me pongas a llorar aquí, okay?
That's fine. We'll be with you. But you do amazing work, Liz. So thank you for this and all the other things that you do that I know are not part of your day job, right? So thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. But I'm emotional sometimes. Ladies, anyone else?
Hermana, I echo that. You're one of my sheroes. Just wanted to tell you.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm bringing it back to where you started, Liz. Save your soul. You said there's a special place in hell for these. Save your soul. If you're gonna go in this, save your soul. Because I think there is just so much life that comes when you do find this. There is so much life, so much. Going back to there's something. It's bigger than you. It's what the world needs today. It is this sort of relationships that are redemptive, the sort of relationships that have your back, that are like calling the magic, calling the life in you, saying, "Ándale, pa'lante," like véngase. So that's the spirit. So save your soul. That's my word. And thank you, Liz. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for all your work.
Man, I love that. Save your soul. Listen, people. Save your soul. We're trying to tell you something here.
I know.
Pay attention.
Yeah. Dale ganas. Give it. Let's bring it. I want it. I want more of it. The energy of that we would tap into with one another, the divine in us to offer to others.
I love that.
Dale ganas.
That's right.
It's wanted.
So ladies, again, if those of you that are watching, we're trying to tell you something here. And it's not too late. It's never too late. While you have breath, it's never too late to develop relationships, to find that tribe, to look for that squad, to talk to people and grow. So we're at the end of our conversation tonight. Thank you all for listening, and thank you for spending time with these wonderful Latinas who shared their experience and their stories with us today. Remember, if you found any value in what we discussed tonight, like, love, share this video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel under Dr. Elizabeth Rios so that you can see all of our Cafecito conversations. God bless you.